up, everyone? And I say everyone and no one because I just go live. I never plan my live streams until sometimes the day of, but sometimes I just get inspired. I just get really, really inspired. And I'm like, oh, let me get on YouTube and just drop a discussion to see if other people are observing the same things that I am observing. So, I talk to a number of Black entrepreneurial women. And before I kind of get deep into this discussion, this is not confined to just Black women, right? I noticed that individuals who identify themselves as Christians, believers in an Abrahamic faith or custom, I find that many of them in these new age religious practices, they practice manifestations and vision boarding. And, at first, when I first heard about this, it sounded pretty innocent, like, okay, you're visualizing, what your goals and your aspirations are. You're writing them down. It sounds more like goal planning to me. I want to do this, I want to do that, right? Lots of times when I see people talk about I have a vision board or I'm manifesting, right? A lot of times they're visualizing things that they feel like they deserve in life. Usually these things have to do with money and high luxury. Let me see if this live stream is going. Hang on for 1 second. Just want to make sure because YouTube, when they start talking, when you start talking about they demons, you know, and exposing their demons and how they're tricking folks, then they like to start suppressing the live streams. So let me just make sure. So let me pull it up on my computer here. All right, and let me mute that. So I'm going to keep going. I don't know if they are suppressing this or not. That's probably a Fed or one of their demon people. I don't know. But we're going to keep going. But I noticed that a lot of people, they talk about manifesting, vision boarding. And then when you get down deep into sort of some of the things that they're saying that this is to achieve, a lot of times they're like, I have this vision of myself. And usually the vision is very self-purposed, right? And so when you're thinking about somebody who says, "How are you?" I don't know if YouTube has just decided to allow this live streams to go or not, but how are you? But when you think about, people talk about manifestation and visualizing as a person who says that they're a Christian, it kind of leads you to wonder, right? Who are you really relying on? Whose purpose are you really living in? Because you hear a lot of Christians will say, I walk with God, God this, God that, God that. But then they'll turn around and say, I'm manifesting. They'll have things like crystals, right? And their vision boards, right? And they're talking about they're tapping into energies and in the universe, right? To manifest what they want. And I often ask, what are these energies? Do you know what these energies are that you're tapping into? Because at this point you're being very ambiguous, right? Because if you're tapping into the most high, if you're tapping into God's energy, then why are you not just saying that you're praying, right? And so when you start to really think about it and analyze it, praying and manifestation are not the same thing. And I think when you really dig down deep into sort of the roots of manifesting, the historical ancient practices of manifesting, typically you're not tapping into anything that is holy. You're actually eating at the table of God and the demons at the same time when you are engaged in practices like this. And so when I hear people talking about, I want to have this much money, and I want to drive this type of car, and I want to have this career, and I visualized myself doing this. And you kind of dial back what these people are saying, and it's like everything that you are saying right now is very self interest. It has nothing to do with the will of the Lord. And so, if you are seeking in ritual, most of the times these people are participating in rituals to get what they want from the universe, right? My whole thing is, how do you know that you're not opening yourself up to forces that you may not want? And the reason why what triggered this conversation is because I was looking at this YouTube video of this guy talking about these love spells. He did this collage of women sharing their experiences after doing what they called a TikTok love spell. And apparently, these women were trying to manifest, not even just manifest, they were trying to trick some guy that they were interested in into being in love with them. And so this particular spell required for them to write their name on a paper, write the person's name on the paper, specifically use a red candle, and there are some other processes that are involved. And apparently, this is supposed to entrap the heart. This is a spell, entrap the heart of the individual that you're interested in. So now you got all these testimonies on TikTok. Now that the spell and the trend is out there and women have went out and tried it, now you have the consequences coming out, right? And you have women stating that they did the spell and they got the result that they wanted, meaning that the person that they were interested in, they begin to express interest in them. But it wasn't just a regular interest where, oh, we're going to fall in love, get to know each other. Their interest was animalistic, meaning it was very possessive, meaning that these guys express to these women that they don't know what has happened to them. However, they feel compelled to be in love with them and be around them and be in their presence and not let them out of their sight. So this one lady was sharing the story of a woman and this woman practiced divinations. So this young lady approached her and told her about her experience with this love spell. And apparently there was a guy at her job that she was very interested in, and he never paid attention to her outside of just casual high and buys. Well, she saw this love spell on TikTok, followed it to the letter, and she said within, I guess, a couple of days, surprisingly, this guy started being more engaged with her. Then they ended up, I guess, hanging out, going out. And then he just started showing up at her place. And it got to the point where he was over her place, wouldn't let her leave her place to go to work because he was worried about her leaving. So it became a real weird obsession. And there were several stories that were told throughout this YouTube video of these men being sort of just psychologically manipulated, by these love spells. Now, first of all, I don't know if these accounts are true or not, because, it's one thing to be playing with the demons at your own will. It's another thing to be playing with the demons and actually subjecting somebody who is completely unconscious of what you're doing to your will. But it is possible to do it if the person that you are trying to subject to your will is a weak and volatile person. And so if you notice the reoccurring theme, these women were manifesting love. They got the love, but it ended up being a very weak and volatile person. I'm talking about abusive. So when you think, and what was really interesting to me is that you have women who were talking about they were believers in God. They were praying to God about this guy after he done started ruining their lives, right? It kind of reminds me of that Hellraiser movie. I forgot which Hellraiser it was, but it was like he was granting these people all these wishes and stuff, and then all of a sudden, like everything that they wished for basically turned to crap, like just garbage, right? It's kind of like that where you play with the demons, they give you what you want, and it seems like it's what you want for the short term, but in the long term you end up devastating yourself. It's really like people who manifest, I want fame and fortune, but then when you look at a lot of these Hollywood celebrities, there's a reoccurring theme there. People in the music industry, there's a reoccurring thing that a lot of these artists are not mentally well. A lot of these artists are on the mic talking about they sold their soul. That, but then on the flip side, you'll hear recordings of these artists say that they manifested the life that they wanted to live and they got everything that they manifested. So I say this to say that, there are a lot of my sisters that are believers in Abrahamic faiths, and they are out here manifesting. They are out here visualizing what they want according to their will and not God's will. And to me, if you're using any type of like objects, if you're using water, fire, any of the elements, right? You have to understand that at that point, you are practicing witchcraft. And I saw a documentary on voodoo. And to me, I think that is very interesting with a lot of these practices, even down to demonology, that you're not really able to manifest to optimum levels unless you are a believer. It is the belief system in something beyond yourself that really makes a lot of this stuff work for a lot of people, you know? And so I'm thinking to myself, what, part of, the Bible does it encourage people to engage in these practices? And why aren't pastors and preachers more on their flocks about these practices? Because really, it's a soft form of witchcraft. And my whole thing is, these women have to know that if you are eating at the table of God, you cannot be eating at the table of demons. And part of eating at the table of demons is saying that God can't do it for me fast enough. So now I'm going to start tapping into external energies in the universe to make what I want happen. And again, I would love, and I've been looking on YouTube to see manifestation horror stories because I'm sure there are a lot of manifestation horror stories out there where women who were like, I prayed for this guy, I manifested him, and then a couple of years later, they're praying him away. You know what I mean? And, I know I had to stop my little sister earlier this year because she practices this manifestation stuff. And I told her, you're practicing soft witchcraft. You're putting what your wants and desires are out there into the universe for not just God to know about, but Satan and his demons to know about. See, when I entreat my Lord, my God, it's in private. And even if I'm talking to him out loud, Lord, give me the strength, I know specifically who I am entreating. I am entreating the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm not entreating some random energy that will receive my lamentations, my entreaty. I'm not just leaving it to the universe. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about, I manifest this to the universe, right? and you're a Christian, why aren't you praying to God? Because what you are manifesting to the universe does not align with the God of Abraham. It aligns with you and what you want. And because it aligns with you and what you want, you are willing to go the rebellious route to get it. So I think that, yes, objects, absolutely, John. Crystals, right? Crystals, people use sage. I mean, people use all kinds of different little tools in their little divinations or their manifestations, tarot cards, right? And a lot of times, people don't realize that, you are engaging in witchcraft. You are engaging in witchcraft when you think that your prayer routine, should include certain objects, right? Nowhere are you going to really see that you need objects to pray to God. All you need to do is get on your knees and pray for something that aligns with Him. Most time, people who are abundantly blessed are the people who are praying for things that align with what God would want them to have. And it aligns with their actual life. You ever see somebody's vision board and they're dumber than a sack of diapers, and they got all these luxurious things? I want to be in a corporate executive. I want to be this. I want to be that. And it's like, you ain't even got the damn character to be all that. You ain't got the network or the research to do all that. You don't even have the social know-how to achieve all that, right? It's just a huge pipe dream for a lot of these people. And it's like, they will disappoint themselves with these little vision boards before life even disappoints them a lot of times, because they're setting themselves up for failure, you know? And then you want God to enable your failures, you know? And it ain't got nothing to do with God, because, you're making their decisions based off of your wants and desires. They don't align with God's will. So therefore, you get what you get. You said get on your knees. Well, I mean, not to be derogatory, but yeah, but you don't necessarily need to get on your knees and pray. I mean, you can get on your knees and pray, but I pray as I'm walking, right? I mean, it tells us we can pray all day, pray when you walk, pray when you eat, right? Pray on your knees, pray when you're laying in bed. You can pray however you want. Just pray, and be very specific about who you're entreating. When these women are out here talking about, I'm manifesting to the universe, you might as well just say that God, Satan, whoever hears me, that's basically, and whoever can deliver this for me, that's what's up. That's what happens when you just manifesting, putting things out there to the universe. More than your God is going to receive what you're saying. And if it doesn't align with your God and what He wants for you, guess who's going to give it to you? Guess who's going to give it to you? Because I say all the time, when we're outward about a lot of our insecurities, our fears, our wants, our desires, more than God hears us. And it's the repetition of those wants and the desires that's really the starting point for the demons, the fallen angels. Because for them, it's like, if you really want this, let us hear your commitment to wanting this, right? And then while they're hearing your commitment to wanting it, the demons are making their assessment, right? I think a lot of people don't realize that just like God giveth and taketh, right? The devil does the same thing because he's too busy mocking his father. So the devil will give and taketh all the same. So they're hearing you, and to me it's like, well, how bad do you want it? And this is where you get into the mindset of selling your soul. I've seen successful business people, and at the root of their success is them screwing over other people, and they will swear that it is God that gave them their success. Why would God give somebody success by screwing over other people? Right? But these people will say that they manifested that success and God gave it to them. But it's really, they were willing to do anything, including screwing over people to get that success. And therefore, their dreams, their realities were manifested. So, a lot of times I tell people, you don't have to celebrate. It's not about being a hater, because some people's success is not worth celebrating, because how did they get there? Did they get there organically by not having to screw over other people, step over other people, manipulate other people? Or did they gain their success being able to successfully do those things? So you really shouldn't envy too many people sometimes, because you never know what people did to get to where they got to, right? So think about that. But I wanted to get on the mic and say this because there's so many different scenarios where I see these Christian women, right? They're involved in non-Christian ways of practice and belief and ritual. And it's even gotten to the point where, and I don't know why I can't log into Facebook on my computer. I'm locked out. But I was looking at this video, and this married woman was talking about how she left her husband of 15 years, right? And she said that God told her that was not her husband, right? And she got a lot of backlash from people, and she was like, well, I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to pray for them. But would God break up a marriage that was not endangered? Would God do that, right? But if you look to the side of this woman, this is a woman that clearly was manifesting, right? And as she's manifesting, visualizing how she wants her life, that vision was not with her husband. In her mind, this is how I look. This is what I could possibly get if I was not with him. Right? So it wasn't about God telling her to leave her husband. It was about them demons that she was tapping into, that social media influence, those women on social media those sirens that kept telling that sister that the grass is greener on the other side without your husband. And as she's visualizing herself, visualizing her life, the reason why she was doing it without her husband is because her visions, her manifestations did not align with God's will. And so she ended up divorcing her husband. And so I say this to say that a lot of sisters, married sisters especially, they practice these new age ways of witchcraft, infusing Christianity, and they need to be careful, because a lot of times you could be practicing something that really do, perhaps give you a better version of yourself, but it really could be the devil manipulating you into destroying your union that will be blessed by God. And it was blessed by God. Now you're a single mother, understanding how hard these streets are for single women. So, that manifesting, I'm telling you, it can be dangerous. And if you know of somebody who is an avid manifester and their life still is screwed up and nothing ever goes right for them, definitely drop it in the comments. If you are somebody who was practicing manifestation and all that good stuff, and you got the opposite effects, maybe it went well, for like a little bit in the short term, but in the long term, it went south and things was much harder for you, let me know, because I want to know, because the demons are not going to have people talking about how listening to them impacted their lives. But I want to hear more stories about women who have practiced these manifestations, affirmations type of things, and they say that they're Christian. Did things work out for you in the end, relying on yourself, your own will, and the connections of the universe versus relying on the Most High? And just to kind of close this, Psalms 37:4 says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you." So if you are a woman who is truly in covenant with God, you are living your life every day according to his will, not your will. And if you are living your life every day according to God and his will, you are going to be blessed. You're not going to be wanting for anything. You're going to have exactly what you need. Sometimes you're even going to have what you want. And God is going to be providing for you. But you have to be very, very specific about who you are entreating when you are putting things out to the universe, when you are trying to connect to external energies, and you say that you are a Christian. Are you going to Yahuwah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if you're a believer, or are you just going to the universe? Because then my question to you is, who in the universe are you going to? Because Satan's in the universe. The other fallen angels are in the universe, right? People want to call them aliens, right? Anunnakis, right? No, they're fallen angels. Those are fallen angels. They are fallen angels, right? And yes, I would say that, if you ever want to think about, what was the huge driver of those ancient Mesopotamian civilizations, right? If you believe in aliens, I don't understand why it's so hard for you to believe in fallen angels. I really don't. And if you read the word, the ancient text, you'll know how they got here. But anyways, you guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. Sisters who are believers, be cautious of your practices. If you have tools, such as sage and all that stuff to help you with your manifesting, you are practicing witchcraft. And I did a little deep dive into witchcraft right before I even did this video, because I wanted to know what the witches, how they defined, their craft. And what you women are doing with this manifesting is no different than that. The writing of it down, right, it's not just for your reminder. You're writing that down for somebody else, something else. And you don't even know what it is, right? The chanting, the constant repetition of, saying what you want. I mean, that's an affirmation that this is what I want. But why are you doing this on the daily, right? Who are you trying to convince outside of yourself? Are you trying to convince this idea of an entity in the universe, right? Because if it was a matter of you believe in the Most High God, if you're a Christian of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then you would just be going to him, asking him. But because you're going on your own desires, right? You got to go to the demons. And so when they talk about, when Messiah talks about you cannot eat at the table of God and the table of the demons as well, he is talking to you affirmation manifestors out there. And shame on the priests and the pastors who have turned the institutions of churches into centuries of motivation and affirmations using the scriptures, because most of your flock are dumber than a sack of diapers and they don't understand the word. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you would not disrespect or abuse yourself, do not disrespect or abuse your neighbors. Understand there's a difference between prayer and manifestation. Okay? You are consciously going to a specific entity when you pray. When you manifest, you are opening your entreaties up to anything that will listen. And a lot of times, those entities will align you with people that can help you realize your goals, right? Because real manifestation really is about alignment. It's about your personal alignment, and it's about who and what you align yourself to, right? And most of the times, it's not the Most High, because most of the times, people who are manifesting, they're manifesting for material wealth and status in Satan's world. And so by default, you cannot be a lover of God and covet Satan's world, covet position or riches or materialism in Satan's world. Real believers in God, they are coveting security and peace and stability in this chaotic ass world. So there's a difference. There's a difference, right? When you want stature, status, so that you can flex and say, look, I manifested all this stuff, so now I can make everybody around me jealous and envying me and stuff. Nothing that you did was rooted in the Most High. And as much as people want to give the Most High credit for what the devil has given them, that's not coming from God. And that's why it's always short term for a lot of these people. It's never really long term. You see people on top today, they at the bottom tomorrow, a lot of times, because they're thinking that their blessings are coming from God, and it's really coming from the devil. It's really coming from the devil. But anyways, you guys, let me know what you think. One of the witches said that, part of getting what you want is repeating, I am worthy, I am this, I am that. And again, think of the self-will and absorption in these practices, right? If you are a lover of God, you are somebody who is aligned with his will, not your own. So let me know what you guys think about this. Ladies, if you're not married, or even if you are married, because you got married women who are manifesting new men. And I'll give you an example. My little sister was one of them. She said that she was telling me, and this is what really kind of got me to thinking about this stuff, because I never really took it seriously. She's married. And, they got together when both of them were low in life. And sometimes the best way to build something with somebody is kind of to start off on the same plane. So start off broke together and build together. They started off low together, and they literally did do well. They both got little jobs. They were eventually able to get their own place. They ended up having a daughter. And, you would think that they were doing very well. He's working hard to try to provide for her and their daughter. Good guy, love the kid, right? Meanwhile, my sister, she's more like, I deserve better. Like, I deserve somebody who makes money, who can take care of me, who have the same kind of hustle and ambitions as me, who's a boss bitch, all that good jazz, right? And so she started manifesting all of her dreams and her goals and all this stuff. And one of the things that she manifested was a guy, like a new guy that she was telling me, or this boyfriend that she was telling me about, that she had, with her husband. Now, my sister knows I'm not going to enable that kind of behavior. I'm going to try to talk you off the cliff spiritually, instead of sitting up there enabling, a married woman to have a whole boyfriend. So she's telling me about this new boyfriend, and he was very attractive. She's more focused on the pipe game, right? And he did have money. He was in real estate or whatever that means to some of these guys. It's like saying you're in construction in Goodfellas. It's like, okay, really? But anyways, long story short, she's telling me that this dude, he copied pretty much a lot of her creative works, this new guy, right? So while he had all these awesome characteristics on this side, he also had these sneak shift snake tendencies on the other side, right? And he had the ingredients for a dude that would just basically use her and dismiss her. So I'm telling her that I'm like, this new dude got all kinds of red flags, you know? But this is what you thought you manifested, and even you agreed with me that yeah, there were things about him that irked you, but he had more money than your husband, so you were able to kind of get a, I guess she was able to kind of not pay attention to the things about the new guy that irked her. But I just say this to say, careful what you manifest. Careful what you manifest to these demons, because they will probably make it come true for you, right? And you'll be encouraging other people to manifest to the demons all the same. But if you're a Christian woman, ask yourself, after 10 years of getting what you manifested, do you still have it? And did it really make your life better? I want to hear the sisters that were just manifesting, manifesting, manifesting. Did it make your life better in the long term, or, or in the short term, was it better? And in the long term, you had to get rid of the thing that you manifested, because that's a whole other YouTube live stream about these women manifesting these dudes, and they manifested a goddamn loser. So, anyways, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. I know this wasn't probably the most interesting live stream, but I think that it presents a spiritual caution to those women who say that they are Christians. We have to mind our practices. If we are not instructed to do something in the Bible, and even when we analyze these practices and what we're doing, if we see that it's borderlining divinations and spiritistic practices that do not align with the Most High, then that's when I believe that you should probably think about getting rid of them, because a lot of our sisters are borderline witches now. There's a lot of witchcraft going on in the Black community. And, I expect this for the non-Black American, Black-looking people, but I am seeing these practices trickle down into Black American women. And historically, we have not been on that kind of time, but I do see that the Black women who have absorbed these mindsets and they have abandoned traditional idealisms of faith, right? And they're in these zones. A lot of these women have very toxic, evil inclinations to them. So these aren't even good witches. These are evil, emotional witches. And they are out here manifesting how they're going to destroy their lives and somebody else's life in the process. So, sisters of faith, stop that manifesting, stop that affirmation stuff, and just pray. Bye.